Guys, just thought you might want to know,
Stonks aren't up,
they're down. Yes, sir. What's going on, guys? It's K-Dub here with another episode of CryptoZombie. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a great start to your week. Bitcoin had a crazy morning. Do you see what happened? We were all the way up. We were trying to push back up over $40,000. Bitcoin dumped all the way down to 37,200, only just to pump back up again, right now sitting at around $39,000. This was an absolutely crazy morning that we had for Bitcoin. Now, I do just want to point out, however, that even though it is Monday, I do still consider this to be weekend trading because it is President's Day in the US, so the traditional markets are actually closed today. So these are the types of moves that you see, especially on the weekends when we do have this lower sort of liquidity. There's less volume, right, over on the exchanges. But that being said, guys, we need to talk about some incredible similarities right now on the Bitcoin chart compared to some legacy charts. And it's not only showing up once or twice or three times, but it seems like there is a crazy pattern playing out right now, ultimately leading Bitcoin to the biggest potential what if scenario. So you're going to want to stick around for that, of course, since today is a non-stock trading day. I thought we would focus on that. And there is also something on chain right now in the data that is revealing a big clue as to what most Bitcoin investors are currently doing and what the whales could potentially be looking to do in the short term. So if that sounds good to you, you know what to do. If you're not subscribed, definitely get subscribed, hit the bell notification, turn on the likes, and let's get into it. So having a look right here, or, smash the likes, you know what I mean. But anyway, having a look what's going on right here, you can actually see that we are clearly below the weekly EMA ribbon. We are still, look at this, we did find some support right here. We are back above this level. But the other thing I wanted to point out too, is you can actually see that we were supported on the 89 EMA. Now, even though that's like way out of the ribbon, it's sort of like the last stand, right? You can actually see right here, if we go back, this is sort of this purple line right here. You can see, yes, we were in very bearish territory, right? But as long as we kept bouncing off of this, we still had, some support. Obviously, once we lost it, that was pretty bad. But if we zoom in right here, and let me just get rid of all this stuff that's going on, you can actually see that we did in fact have a nice bounce off that level. Doesn't really mean we're out of the water, out of the woods just yet, but ultimately it is still nice to see Bitcoin having that support. As I did say yesterday, or actually 2 days ago in my video, if we did fall below and close below around this area of 39,500, there is that potential chance that we do end up coming back down to the bottom of this area. We could see Bitcoin go back into the $34,000 to $35,000 range. And that would still be putting in higher lows, which is still fine as far as the bullish structure is concerned. But I just want to let you guys know, if we can't get back above the sort of $41,500, $42,000 area, then unfortunately that is a possibility. We also do have the last line of defense, in my opinion, for the bulls, which we have the major support on the weekly at 32,700. So even if we go down to the low 30s again, you don't want to close below 32,740 on the weekly. So you don't want to have an entire week and then that candle closes. That could be very bearish for Bitcoin, but there is no reason to be bearish just yet. In fact, if you're truly interested in accumulating for the long term, well, then you should be most likely excited right now to see Bitcoin down at these levels, because as I said, every time we keep putting in a higher low, higher low, higher low, and so far we're still trending upwards, which keeps showing that there is that demand. The investors are buying, the whales are buying, and ultimately, as long as we maintain this trend, I have no problem. And as you can see right here, even coming down and perfectly touching this trend still puts Bitcoin, at $35,000, and we would still look for the bounce off those levels. So having a look at the fact that we have actually spoke about this. And I've been talking about this for over a month now. So if you haven't been watching the channel, you're not subscribed, you need to get subscribed, because everybody watching these videos had anticipated this type of an M-shaped pattern. We spoke about this. There even was that possibility of coming back down to the $30,000 level, which could be that crazy last minute fake out, right? I don't know ultimately what's going to happen, but if we do look at history, what I had showed you, what had happened essentially with the S&P was something very similar that's happening to Bitcoin right now. And you can see that if you actually take this and lay this chart on top of the Bitcoin chart, this is what Crypto Khalifa pointed out, you actually end up getting something like this, where Bitcoin comes back down, retests these levels, everyone's freaked out, we wick down to 28,000, panic and ensues, and everybody sells all their Bitcoin, and then look at this, we then continue all the way upwards, and we could even end 2023 right here at around $220,000 for Bitcoin. Now, personally, I think that's a little bit high. I think we'll probably get somewhere around the $160,000 to $180,000 price for Bitcoin for this cycle. But I really appreciated what Bitcoin Fuel had been pointing out. So not only do we have the charts matching what I've been talking about, which is that S&P chart, you also have a very similar scenario happening on the Dow Jones. You can see he's actually drawn the similarity where you have this sort of falling wedge structure. You also have this support, and look, we end up getting caught right in that area and having that bounce. And if you actually look at what Bitcoin is doing right now, we're also having this falling wedge structure, having this upward sloping support, and getting caught right here in the spider web as well. And we do know how that ended. It did the same thing that the S&P did. And he also points out, if we compare the current Bitcoin movement to what happened back in 2012, you'll see that although it's not exactly the same, there's something incredibly similar happening right now. So we did have Bitcoin forming this structure, and currently, where we also had it finding that support as well, you could notice that Bitcoin back here in 2012 had gone from about, $16 down to $9, which is somewhere in the ballpark of, 44, 45%, something like that off the top of my head. And crazy enough, if we actually look at where Bitcoin is down right now, from the absolute peak to where we're sitting, I kid you not, 44.2%. And if we go back over here, you could see that the most important thing about this is it's not just a similar pattern. It's almost exactly the same pattern. And it's almost, according to Bitcoin Fuel, what he believes to be in the same part of the cycle. So it was not the top. Some people thought it was the top because we did put in, a short-term lower high, but we did continue upwards from there. And I mean, we all know that Bitcoin got a lot higher than $16. Let's be quite honest, right? He also points out similarities of Bitcoin to gold in 1999 to 2011, and he says that it is following this fractal very, very closely. It's been doing it for about 8 years, and even if you look at the RSIs, they're doing something incredibly similar as well. And not to ruin, the outcome for you, but yeah, it kept going, guys. Gold kept going, it kept running, and didn't really see any kind of a, major drop until about August of 2011, and this would be the equivalent of being around April of 2006 or something like that. So obviously, Bitcoin moves a lot faster than gold, but you can definitely see that there are some similarities. He even points out the range right here. You can see you have the hype, you have facing reality, and then you have liftoff. And even though, of course, there is that moment where, it does slow down, ultimately it does continue to grind to the upside. Now, something else we've been pointing out is the dollar index. So having a look at the dollar index, resistance, resistance, resistance. Now look at this, guys. What is the dollar starting to do right here? What is that? What is that? If you guys know your patterns, it's starting to form a descending triangle. So we keep getting support here, right? The dollar won't go below this level, but what do we keep doing? We keep bouncing lower and lower and lower and lower, and eventually we have the drop off. And if this looks like a familiar pattern to you, well, that's because it was exactly what we had going on right here, okay? In this end of the market, back in Bitcoin of 2018, and you could see right here, we had that very similar situation, essentially, where we were putting in this pattern, right? We kept getting a lower high, but we were finding support right here, right? Lower high, lower high, lower high, and what ended up happening? Well, eventually right here, Bitcoin fell 50%, and that is exactly what the dollar looks like it's doing right now. So it does not look good long term for the dollar, regardless of the Fed raising rates short term and whatever it is that they say they're going to do. Ultimately, guys, Bitcoin is the place to be. And if you have a look at what Gert Van Lagen pointed out, the dollar index, the DXY is not only putting in a pattern that I just mentioned, but he also says that it's following this Wyckoff distribution schematic quite closely. And you could see that there are these few fake out tops, but then boom, we do end up going into phase E where we have a massive, massive sell-off. Now, what's going on in the background? Well, according to on-chain analytics data company Glassnode, they categorize long-term holders as wallet addresses holding Bitcoin greater than a 155-day period. So the recent reduction in long-term holdings looks like a rounding error compared with what investors added in 2021. And what you could see according to the data is that long-term hodlers have actually added 1.8 million to Bitcoin on their accounts, similar to January, while short-term supply has declined by 1.4 million. So the people who just bought in recently are the ones who are panic selling, and the people who are long-term holders are buying. And why is this? Well, according to Su Zhu of Three Arrows Capital, he says one reason on-chain data is showing impressive holding behavior is because many people actually did buy Bitcoin in 2017 and 2018 only to sell for a loss after losing patience. Anecdotally, many of these people are staying humble this time and buying every month, regardless of what else is happening. So first time, first year in the market, first cycle, you make a lot of mistakes. You buy high, you sell low, you panic, you let the emotions get the best of you. But when you've been in the space as long as a lot of us have on the CryptoZombie channel, I've been doing this for over 6 years, you kind of start to get a little numb to these movements. Oh, Bitcoin's down 50% again? Great, time to buy, right? You don't panic over these. And the times that are boring, the times where you're losing patience, you're losing interest, often that is the best time to actually make those investments, not when everybody's freaking out and everything's already up 10, 20, 30x, right? Now, according to CNBC Crypto World, they had Tom Lee on, and he revealed that even with the Fed's plans to raise rates after a 3-decade-long decline, he says that investors are bound to lose money in bonds and stocks in the next decade. So he expects investors to move, and he estimates it to be somewhere around $60 trillion from bonds to things like stocks, which generate yield. But he says that it's more likely that they see it go into some of the speculative capital. And he says he thinks we're going to see a lot of money flow from equities into crypto. He discussed the growth of Bitcoin and what it could face, in the coming years. And he says the existing generation of investors in the US is going to be willing to allocate to Bitcoin. He noted that about 76% of the wealth in America is controlled by people over 65 years of age, which represents about $100 trillion. In his opinion, most of these people are yet to take Bitcoin seriously and are discouraged by the lack of regulatory clarity, which we do know is coming, adding that even a small percentage of that capital is coming into crypto would have huge implications. But ultimately, you are seeing the transfer of wealth. You're seeing, younger generations not only inherit money, but they're also having the opportunity to decide where they want to allocate their capital. And you are seeing more and more and more of the newer generations, of millennial generations, Gen Zs, looking to digital assets, crypto, Bitcoin, Ethereum, over things like traditional stocks and bonds, right? No, you're not really seeing as much of the interest in that. And, you're also seeing a lot of naysayers really truly understand the power of Bitcoin. You have David Heinemeier Hansen, or he goes by DHH, creator of Ruby Rails, co-founder of Basecamp and Hey, best-selling author, Le Mans class-winning racing driver. Well, guess what, guys? Now he has actually come out and said, I still can't believe that this is the protest that would prove every Bitcoin crank a profit. And for me to have to slice a piece of humble pie and admit that I was wrong on crypto's fundamental necessity in Western democracies. And he actually wrote this very long essay. I'm not going to go into it, but I really liked the way he ended it. He was talking about what was happening in Canada and how you were seeing, Bitcoin essentially be able to give aid to the truckers. And he said, I don't think we have any idea what kind of radicalizing seeds we have planted by Trudeau with these actions. This is one of those world events that you can imagine a documentary in the future, opening with "It all started when." But wherever this leads us next, it's clear to me now that I was too hasty to completely dismiss crypto on the basis of all the things wrong with it at the moment, instead of appreciating the fundamental freedom to transact that it's currently our best shot at protecting. He said you don't need laser eyes or an NFT avatar to appreciate that, right? And also, speaking about, if you guys watched my previous video, it was a really great video. A lot of people found a lot of value out of it, where we were discussing, the importance of, owning your own private keys, putting your crypto on something like a Ledger Nano device or a Trezor or anything where you actually own your own private keys. And the Ontario Court of Justice sent Nunchuck, a self-custodial Bitcoin wallet, a Mareva injunction ordering it to freeze and disclose information about the assets involved in the Freedom Convoy 2022 campaign. In an official response to the Ontario Superior Court of Justice, Nunchuck replied that it is a self-custodial collaborative multi-sig Bitcoin wallet and that it is a software provider and not a custodial financial intermediary. They said, we do not collect any user identification information beyond email addresses. We also do not hold any keys. Therefore, we cannot freeze our users' assets. We cannot prevent them from being moved. We do not have knowledge of the existence, nature, value, and location of our users' assets. This is by design. So this is exactly what would help protect you, right? Even if you were wrongfully accused, like Jesse Powell said in my previous video, hey, if you got to pay a lawyer, but you don't have your money because it's frozen, well, that's a problem, right? But look, guys, at the end of the day, crypto is a scary place, and I do understand why they're afraid of it. SafeMoon, Jake Paul, Nick Carter, and Soulja Boy are being sued, and this alleges that false and misleading statements were made to investors. The lawsuit is requesting a trial by jury to determine the facts of the case. Now, I've never promoted SafeMoon. This is actually one of the first times I think I'm even mentioning it on the channel, but obviously, guys, in a lot of these scenarios, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. People don't want to invest in Bitcoin because, I got to wait for Bitcoin to go to $80,000 to double my money. Okay, maybe, but think about this, my friends. Knowing the trajectory of Bitcoin and knowing where the Bitcoin price is going based on historical data, based on logarithmic data, based on the 4-year cycle or the lengthening cycle, whichever one you believed on, or just simply based on your knowledge of how terrible things are right now, especially with inflation. They're not going to be able to fix it, and you don't want to buy a Bitcoin because Bitcoin right now is a lot cheaper, by the way, than it was a few months ago, sitting at around $38,000. And the fact that or we believe it could go to $1 million in our lifetime, that's not something that people would want to invest in. Not you specifically. I say you in third person. The person who is doubting this. It's a no-brainer, guys. It's a no-brainer. Get yourself one Bitcoin if you can. Try your best, sacrifice, junk food and partying and go out and get an extra job. I mean, don't do what I did. My house went into foreclosure. I sold my car. I rode a bike for 2 years. I did everything I could to try to accumulate as much Bitcoin because I believe in where it's going. And, if you have one Bitcoin, you're looking at $1 million potentially in the next decade. That's not enough. That's not enough money. I mean, I don't know how much money you need. I know that $1 million isn't as much as it used to be. I do agree with that. It's definitely not the $1 million my grandpa had. But at the end of the day, guys, basically the point I'm trying to make is, be careful with these scams. Be careful with these altcoins. I love altcoins. I love gambling on the altcoins, buying the altcoins. They're fun. But at the end of the day, you really want to have that solid portfolio, the blue chips, Bitcoin, Ethereum, the ones that are proven and the ones that the institutions are going to come in and get. And like Kevin O'Leary said, once they get that regulatory green light, especially with these United Arab Emirate sovereign wealth funds in the Middle East, My goodness, guys, you're talking about billions and billions and billions of dollars worth of capital coming into Bitcoin. And when you're looking at a $38,000 price for Bitcoin, I know some people are sitting here and I want to wait till it goes to 24. I want to wait till it goes to 20. It could happen. It's possible. I'm not saying to buy. I'm not saying to sell. Don't do anything I say. I'm not a financial advisor. I am just a guy on the internet. But history has definitely proven that the bulls are the victors when it comes to Bitcoin. So that is it for me today. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel. You guys rock. You're the reason that I make these videos. And if you are looking to trade these crazy Bitcoin price movements, make sure that you watch my tutorials popping up right here, right now. Over $8,000 in bonuses below. Check out the links in the description. My name's K-Dub. This is CryptoZombie. Until next time, stay crypto. And of course, peace out.